Okay, so I've been working on getting this done. I was waiting on a phone call, and so I'm getting a little late start on this one. I have church in about an hour, so trying to make this short and sweet. But anyways, I finished up on the traders yesterday, and today I'm working on getting the recipes implemented. So far I've already changed over the recipes being entered into the game and created stored procedures. And here I've already created the tables and then inserted the values for the single item that we have. And right now I'm just doing a little debugging. Um, Trying to figure out what's going on with it. When I start it up, we got add new recipes. Oops, didn't mean to step into that. Alright, so we're check our recipes here. We do have one. We don't have an output item amount. I guess I forgot to do that one, but we do have the ID, the ingredients, and the name. So I need to input the amount of items that it outputs. And that's kind of where I'm at on it. And then we can add stuff to the inventory next. Work on saving the inventory and writing it to the databases, along with being able to. So we got the ID of 3. Check our recipes. We still need a output. See if it'll. No. Okay. And so we're not getting here, it's not passing in the recipe. So I'm getting the no reference exception. I mean, we could bypass this simply by doing this, and now it won't error out. But sometimes an error is good. I mean, and we've lost our recipe here. But the rest of the game functions. So I guess that's a good thing-ish. So let me continue debugging and chasing this down. And not really a whole lot to do, but at least you can watch me do it, I guess. See, so we learn recipe, and I think, and then, so, nope, let's go back. I know where it is, and I need to See, when we add ingredient, no, let's go back to the recipe factory here, or the recipe itself. Let's look through it, add an output item. Here we go. And it has no references, so it won't take us that way. Alright, let's start back over here and step through it. Alright, yeah, so we've got output items is, where did I forget to do that? Alright, so I'm going to copy everything I got here. I'm going to put it back in Notepad. Just throw it all in there, that way we don't lose nothing. We're stopped, so let me reset the code all the way back because I had to have overlooked something, right? That's the only way that it could get messed up. That's not going to be, see, because the recipe here is not assigning any output items. I don't know why, so we'll go over here to game session, and let's not reset this yet. Let's add that code to here as well. I can't go too fast because there we go. Alright, so let me test it out here. Let me walk through it so that I can find why it's not. Well, actually, I'll do it another way. First, I'll make sure that it is crafting the item. See, recipe has a recipe. It does have an output item. So see, I need to, where did I put that? See, now we got one reference. There we go. Oh, that's where I forgot it. I got it now. Okay. So what I'm going to do, let's stop it. Let's go back to session and reinsert this. Well, let's go back to session anyways. I assumed it was something that it's not, and that was my fault. You're kind of seeing the process that I went through when I was adding this code. There we go. And then we'll go back to the recipe factory. And I just forgot to add this to it. So let's, first I don't have it in the ingredients, nor do I have it in here. So we'll add it into the recipe. We'll have the recipe name, the quantity, and the output. We'll call it item crafted. It's going to be int. And then it's going to reference, nope. I'm actually going to have to create a third table for this. And the reason why I got to create a third table is because it can output multiple items. You're going to have, yeah, it could output multiple items. And because it can, we need to make sure that we're right on track with being able to capture those items. Just like we did here with, oops. Alright, so let's push this all the way back to how we were. Alright, and now we got the output item was 2001. Oops, wrong one. And we can what is it called? It's called table game items. So right here at 2001 is the granola bar with an item type of 2, which is a healing item, but that's what it's going to output. So we'll leave that for reference. Just going back up here, we got to create a table, and we're going to call recipe output. Good enough, I reckon. And so we do this, and then we're going to need a primary key and or an identity. And the reason we need that is in case we need to go through row by row. Well, we can't just specify identity, can we? We'll call it output ID, integer, primary key, identity, and we're going to do 7 and 5. Let me turn down my phone. There we go. And then we also are going to need a game item ID. So integer, foreign key. It's going to reference the table game items, item ID. And then we are also going to need another one for recipe ID. Oop, we're not going to do not null, we're just going to do foreign key, and it's going to table recipe ID. Alright, there we go. And now that we got that completed, I know the recipe ID is 3, and we're only going to insert one item, so we're going to insert into the table recipe output, and we're going to insert the recipe ID and the game item ID. And we know that it's 2001 is the recipe ID, or the game item ID. The recipe ID is going to be 3. There we go. And then down here we got to do another if. Let's do it this way. Put a little space in there, and then here we're going to get recipe output items. Or no, I don't like output. Let's change that to crafted. Get crafted items. That'll work. Wish I'd have thought of that word before. I went ahead and did it, but nonetheless, we're going to create a new stored procedure. And this stored procedure we've already named. Get crafted item, we're going to need a recipe ID so we can pull it by the ID. And then now we're just going to select the game item ID. From the recipe out. Oops. Alright, I done forgot the name, and that's okay, because we have it right there. And that's all we need. And if we select, make sure it runs, there's our game item ID. Let's execute it. Now that we've got that created, we can come up here and there it is, game item ID. Alright, we're already passing that in. So instead of add ingredient, we need to add output item. And then I believe the only thing, let me go check. Go to definition. Okay, we got a quantity as well too, so I need to add that to the table. So let's come over here to the table, back to this one, and then we're going to alter the table, recipe output. We're going to add crafted quantity. It's going to be an integer. We're going to set the default to 1. That completed. That's just so I can knock two things out at one time is why I did it that way. Now we're going to okay, so you know what? I'll just go back and we'll do it this way. That way I don't think I've showed you yet. Alright, so let's refresh the tables so that we can see our new table here, the recipe output. We're going to select the design mode, right click and select design mode. And then once it loads up, we're going to come up down to crafted quantity. And see here where it says 1, simply change that to 0 and save. Well, you got to click out of it and then you can save it. And it's a done deal. Now we should be able to select everything from it. And you see I changed it to null. That's okay. That's alright. All we got to do is we'll add it here. And then all we have to do is specify is delete table recipe output with no where clause, and it'll delete everything in the table. And then all we have to do now is just rerun this query, and that'll repopulate all our values. That's the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. So now we have everything done on that end of it. Come over here to Recipe Factory. We're going to add, oh no, we're not done over here. I do have one more thing that I need to do, and I don't know if I've already created it or not. I don't remember. Let's take a peek. Yeah, here it is. Get crafted items, and then we need to add the quantity. As soon as I remember what we called it. There we go. We're going to make sure we got it copied. Trying to modify it, but at the same time I'm trying to telling it to create it. Conflict of interest between me and the GUI here. Alright, and so we're adding the item here, and we need to not click there, we need to click there, and paste the other column name. Okay, so now we've got that, we'll add that, and we need to add that one, and that should get rid of everything. Let's give her a go now. I believe that's going to get her done. If not, we'll start over from square one or something. Recipe ID does not belong to the table. I could have sworn it belonged to the table. So let's go in here to the table and let's see what we got. So we'll start with the columns. Count as 3. Results view. Recipe ID. It's right there. Recipe name and quantity. And then, so let's go to the row that we're looking at. The item object is 3. 3, 1, granola bar, and 1. So why are we not finding... Oh, that's why we're not finding it. Because not we, but I made a boo-boo. And now it's saying, no, you can't change me while running. Because I don't like that. There we go. Because we were specifying this as a whole. Well, I keep saying we, but I was specifying this as a whole. And this actually represents this. And that's what we need to point to because we're getting that row out of the table. Or that's the current row we're working on out of the table, so we need to do it this way. Let's try it again. And this time, hopefully, we won't get no errors. And we still get an error. Recipe ID does not belong to the table. So there's another way that we can do this. Let's stop it. Let's do some testing to find out why it's saying that. We're just going to call it an integer test. Actually, we're not going to call it an integer. What we're going to call it is a variable of, anyways. We'll just throw this out here and see what it catches. A variant, var. See what the assignment to test is. Okay. The assignment to test is 3, so apparently it does work. Convert dot to int 32 dot to string. So there's something else going on. It's got to be going on. Watch this. Convert. Alright, let's just throw test in there. See if it'll run under that. Okay, no, let's back it up. Yeah, no, we want to run it as an int. Let's just convert it here. Like that. And now it accepts the... Okay, now let's try it. Nope. There we go. Let me move this so I can make sure. Okay, no more errors. Test is equal to 3. See, I don't know why it wants to do that. It converted that just fine in that form. Recipe does not belong to table. Okay, so first let's go over here to this, go to definition. We'll restart. We just got to kind of walk our way through it and verify what's going on. Because it's getting the value. There's... So I don't think that that's the main problem, because we know it does. Why it's throwing that, I don't know. Alright. My goodness, this is definitely not wanting to work with me whatsoever. Well, let's go up here and let's step through this. Actually, let's... Oh, you know what? I made a mistake. It needs to go here after all of these, because these are all subsets of this. We'll rename that now. I didn't rename it, but we'll rename it as just regular little lowercase recipe. Okay. But anyways, these are all subsets, and it's adding it in here, so maybe it being down here now where it's supposed to be will solve the problem. Because I think it's not pulling the table it's talking about is probably this right here, the observable collection. No? Okay, I don't know. This is really throwing me off. Recipe factory threw an exception. So even we're here in game session, it's telling me that the recipe factory threw an exception. So let's go over to the recipe factory and let's walk it through it, I guess. Because it does this on load. There we go. Name ID and amount required for add ingredient, right? So let's go double check that. Let's peek at the definition. Yep, item ID. We got item ID. And we've got the quantity, which is the amount required. Okay, so we've got all three ingredients added to the recipe. So let's double check it. 3 ingredients. And it's 3001, 3002, and 3003. If we come over here to our database, we can look in here and make sure it's the right items. Oats, honey, and raisins, 3001, 2, and 3. So that is the correct recipe to craft it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's... Oops, I pushed the wrong button. Let's try that again. So we've got item factory. No, recipe factory. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay, so we've got that far. So we're going to stop it here on this run. Oh, okay. Maybe that's what it's yelling at me about. Yeah, 'cause I stepped into that and it didn't wanna run. So that's where the error's occurring. Back to recipe factory here. All right, so this is our error. Is it's saying that, oh, that's why it's saying that. I did it again. Look at me go, being a noob, not paying attention yet again. So that should solve the problem and get it up and going now. There we go. Now we've moved past it. And then next we move to the next. There ain't no other recipe. So let's continue on. Recipes, and it's not here. So even though we added the recipe, we didn't actually add the recipe. So where's my game session? We'll move this back over here. Now we can get rid of this because that's not where the problem is. We'll stop the bugger there. And that way we can look and see that our player has actually learned the recipe. And there's our value there. So let's put a breakpoint. This is in the player section, so let's go to the definition now. Okay, here we are. Oh, that's because I added that to it. So let's see what we get now. Okay, did we start? Why did this not get called? We didn't make it this far. Let's restart it and check again. There it goes. Recipe does equal null though. Hmm. Yep, that's going to throw a null reference exception. So let's go back. Let's go back here. And let's find out what's going on. Let's walk through it. The ID is 3. 3, we'll look at our recipes. Our first recipe, our ID is 1. How did we get 1 for an ID? Where's that? Oh, because it added it as a... Hold on. I gotta backtrack here. Let's see what we get. Let me stop it here. 1 doesn't exist in the database. That's impossible to... Oh, No, I got it. Let me see here. Now you can execute a stored procedure like this: quantity, granola, and recipe. One second. And so where's it getting the 1 recipe ID from? We gotta track that down. There's something funky going with it. So we got that, and it is returning a 3. So then we go to start with the first. Go to definition. Let me stop it right here and see what ID it's passing and what ID it's sending back. Okay, the ID is 3. So it's sending back an ID of 1, as in the first. Okay, so I got something backwards. It'd have to be over here in SP get all recipe. So let's modify this query. SP get all recipe. SP get, oh, I gotta refresh. That's why I'm not seeing it. There we go. Modify. Recipe ID. Recipe name. And recipe quantity. Okay, so this is gonna be, it's gonna be a booger. I'll get it. So we're passing in a recipe ID of 3, but it's returning a recipe ID of 1. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to get the database to match. No, I don't like that. I'm definitely going to have to change that later. Okay, so let's go over here to our database. I've never tried to do this, but we will see. Probably going to tell me nope. Yeah. So what I am going to do is I'm going to come over here to the table, recipe table. No, I can't do that either. So, oh booger. Okay. Well, I have all 3 of them here, so it's not going to let me delete this because the foreign key relationship. See, it conflicted with the constraint foreign key blah 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 blah. So I can't delete that first. I have to delete the other ones first. So we got to delete table recipe ingredients, and we got to delete table recipe output. And it has to be in this order like I just showed you. See, now it completed successfully because there was no relationships to these. Alright, so let's change all our values here to 1, and then let's change, what am I changing? I just lost train of thought. Let's delete these because we don't need them no more. Oh yes, let's go back into design mode. Let it load up and then select the recipe ID. We're going to come down here to the identity specification. Yes, it's an identity. We're going to increment by 1, and we're going to start at 1. We're going to save that. Saving change is not permitted, blah 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 blah. Okay, cancel that. Let's drop the key. Where are you at? Let me go full screen here so I can see. There you are. Oh, okay. So since this is wanting to be such a huge booger, I'm just going to have to start over on the table creation. I'm going to have to start over on all these items, and that's alright. So we're going to drop table, table recipe, and just like we did with the other ones, we got to do it in a specific order because of the relationships. Even if there is no data in there, the relationship still exists, and it'll say, hey, you can't delete this without doing this, and that's why we do them. That's why we specify the foreign keys. We don't have to, but we want to because that'll keep the integrity of the system together. Alright, now we can delete that too. And starting from top to bottom, let me change the identity here from 1 to 1. Recipe output, if that becomes a problem, then it becomes a problem, we'll see. 1 row affected, 3 rows affected, invalid column name, crafted quantity. Oh, because I didn't add this in initially and had to come back and add it, and that's not a problem. So let's make this easy and just drop the table again. And then let's come up here and let's add it to the alright. So let's check all of them now. Okay, we got that one. Because it aired out, I don't really like to just assume that it took one and not the other. I like to actually physically go through and make sure and check. Never hurts to double check. Okay. Alright, now everything should be kosher. Let's see if it is. And it is. So far. Yep, we crafted it. It's in the system now. And that's going to be a real booger because now I can't just willy-nilly add items to the recipes to the database and be able to craft them. They're actually going to have to be in a specific order. Unless I don't know. Well, I'll figure it out. There's other ways around it. But anyways, thank you for joining me. It's a little longer than I was wanting, but it's alright. I gotta get ready for church.